Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. Today my team and I are going to present on feminism theory in international relations. Before we dive in, let me introduce my team members. We have Muhammad Nabil Amri bin ZA'IM, FATIN AMIZA binti ZULKHAIRI, FAIRUZ SAFIRAH binti FIRDAUS, NURUL HAZIMAH binti HASHIM, and myself, Muhammad HISYAM bin MANSOR.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nabil Amri bin ZA'IM. Now I will talk about what is feminism. First, feminism can be defined as a social, political and cultural movement and philosophy that advocates for equal rights, opportunities and treatment for all genders, particularly by addressing inequalities historically experienced by women. The main objective of feminism is not only to focus on women's rights, but also to promote fairness and equality within society. Feminism seeks to challenge discrimination, unequal treatment and barriers that prevent individuals from having equal opportunities. In the context of international relations, the field has traditionally been dominated by mainstream theories such as realism and liberalism. These theories often present themselves as neutral and objective perspective for understanding global politics. However, in reality, these frameworks often reflect male-centered viewpoints. They mainly define power and security through military, strength, state survival and diplomacy. As a result, they tend to overlook the everyday experiences and challenges faced by women and marginalized groups. Feminism challenges this traditional approach by arguing that international politics should not only focus on states and military issues but also consider how political decisions and global events affect people in their daily life. For example, during war and conflicts, discussion often focus on national security and military strategies, while the experiences of women, such as displacement, violence, or social inequality, may receive less attention. Therefore, feminism broadens our understanding of international relations by highlighting perspectives that have often been ignored and creating a more inclusive understanding of global issues. Now, I will pass to the next presenter.
To understand this story, we have to start with a very simple but powerful argument. International relation is not gender neutral. In fact, it is completely gender blind. So the traditional theories like realism and liberalism claim to be objective and neutral, but in reality they totally ignore the roles and experience of women in global politics. So a famous scholar named Cynthia Enlow raised a vital question that changed everything. She asked, where are the women? So when we think about it, when we talk about foreign policy or war, women are usually invisible, but they always there, serving as workers, as caregivers and grassroots or peace builders in the politics. So this theory brings their voice back into the scenes of politics. Next, let's look at how feminism completely changes how we define security. In traditional IR, security is strictly about state borders and military traits. It assumes states as rational masculine units, and it completely ignores what happens to individuals inside those borders. But feminism redefines security from the bottom up. It introduced human security. This concept look at how real people, especially women, experience insecurity every single day through things like domestic abuse, economic struggles and structural violence. It reminds us that militarism, which is supposed to protect the state, often make life much more dangerous for women on the ground. Now, there is not just one type of feminism in IR. As you can see on the slide, there are three major approaches. The first one, we have liberal feminisms. Their main focus is equal representations. They want to achieve institutional equality. They ask why women are excluded from diplomatic corps and peace negotiations. And the last, they fight to get more women into the top of leadership roles. The second one is critical feminism. This story is push from a systematic overhaul. They argue that simply adding more women to the current system is not enough. So they want to change the whole structure because they believe our current global political system are fundamentally naturally promote war and exploitations. Finally, we have post-colonial feminisms. They criticize Western feminism for claiming to speak for all women. They also highlight that women in the global south face completely different struggles. Their issues are deeply driven by colonial history, racism, harsh economic realities. So, one size fits all Western solution simply does not work. So ultimately, feminist IR is crucial because it reminds us of the importance of true security is not just the absence of war, but it is presence of justice and equality for everyone. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is SAFIRAH binti FIRDAUS and I will present about analysis on theory. So for our analysis, we choose liberal feminism as the theory to be applied in the context of international relations. So first of all, liberal feminism is a political philosophy that aims to free women from oppressive gender roles and achieve gender equality or gender justice. According to C. Oxley in 2011, this theory believed that women and men should have equal rights, equal opportunity, and equal participation in society, including in politics and international relations. So how liberal feminism can be applied to international relations? So first, we focus on the lack of women in leadership roles. Although women make up a large part of the global population, they are still underrepresented the positions such as a president, diplomats, ministers, and international decision makers. So liberal feminism believes that women should be given equal opportunity to participate in leadership because their voice and perspective are very important in shaping policy and global decision. So second, liberal feminism focus on the gender dynamic of war and peace. So this means that wars and conflict affect women and men differently. For example, women are often victims of violence, displacement, and discrimination during conflict. At the same time, women contributes in peace building are often ignored. Therefore, liberal feminism emphasizes the importance of understanding this gender difference in international issue. So third, this theory advocates for inclusive policy that ensure women participation in peace process and negotiation. So liberal feminism argue that peace agreement and negotiation will become more effective and sustainable when women are included in the decision-making process. So women can bring a different experience, ideal, and solution that contribute the long-term peace and stability. So for the case study example, we can see the implementation of feminism foreign policy in countries such as Sweden and Chile. So this approach aims to promote gender equality and increase women participation in foreign policy and international decision making. So for example, Sweden introduced feminism foreign policy in 2014. The policy focus on women's rights, women representation, and women access to resource in global affairs. Similarly, Chile adopted this policy in 2022, showing the growing recognition of gender equality in international relations. However, despite this positive effort, the implementation of feminist policy still face several challenges. One major challenges is that this policy often depend on political support and government leadership. When a new government takes over, the focus on feminism policy may decrease or even change completely. So this show that such reform are sometimes difficult to maintain consistently in the long term. Even so, study and observation have shown that prioritizing gender equality in foreign policy can create more inclusive and effective outcome, especially in diplomacy, development and peace building. So therefore, this case study clearly support the argument of liberal feminism, which believe that increasing women participation and representation can improve the effectiveness of international policy, although some challenges in implementation still remains.
My name is NURUL HAZIMAH. Today, I will explain about strength and criticism of liberal feminism in international relations. First, liberal feminism provides a scientific and rationalist grounding in international relations. It challenges the traditional theories like realism, which are often gender-biased. According to ZA'IM thinker in her book Gender in International Relations, traditional ideas of objectivity are mainly based on masculine experience. Liberal feminism believes that gender should be included as category of analysis because men and women experience conflict, politics, and global economy differently. They also agree that theory must consider culture, history, and social context. Secondly, liberal feminism support institutional reform and representation. Liberal feminists believe that women should have equal opportunities in politics, leadership, diplomacy, and security institutions. A good example is United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 that was introduced in 2000. This resolution highlights the importance of women's participation in peace building, conflict resolution, and decision-making process related to international peace and security. However, liberal feminism also receives criticism. One criticism is the Western or universalist bias. Critics such as Chandra Paltet Mohandi argue that liberal feminism often focus too much on experience of Western middle-class women. As a result, women from developing countries are sometimes portrayed as weak, oppressed, and dependent, without fully understanding their actual culture and history. Another critique is known as the add woman and stir problem. Critics argue that simply adding women into leadership position did not necessarily change the unequal or violent structure of the international system. For example, women working in the foreign affairs ministries are often ignored unless they hold elite position. This shows that the gender inequality may still continue even when women are included in the institution. In the conclusion, liberal feminism has made an important contribution to international relations by promoting gender equality, women participation, and institutional reform. However, it still faces criticism regarding the Western bias and the limitation of representation alone in changing the international system.
Thank you, HAZIMAH, for your explanation. So now, my name is FATIN AMIZA binti ZULKHAIRI. Today, I would like to present the impact of feminism towards international relations. Feminist theory has changed the way we understand global politics, security, and peace building by highlighting the importance of gender equality and women's experience in international affairs. First, feminism has changed the understanding of security in international relations. Traditionally, international relations mainly focus on military power, war, and state survival. Security was usually understood as protecting the country from external threats. However, feminist international relations argues that security should not only focus on the state, but also on human safety and well-being. This means security should include protection from violence, poverty, discrimination, and inequality. Feminists believe that people experience insecurity in different ways, especially women and vulnerable groups. For example, during conflicts, women often face gender-based violence, displacement, and lack of access to healthcare and education. Organizations such as the United Nations promote the concept of human security through gender equality policies. According to United Nations Women, conflict affect women are differently, so security approaches should include protection, rights, and recovery for women as well. As a result, countries today are encouraged to create policies that focus more on people's life and human welfare, not only on military strength. This shows how feminism has expanded and transformed the meaning of security in international relations. The next point is feminism also influenced global policies and international institutions. Feminist international relations encourage international institutions to include gender perspective in policy making. This means government and organizations must consider how policies affect men and women differently. In the past, many global institutions were dominated by male perspective. Because of this, women's need and experience were often ignored in international policies and decision-making processes. Feminist theory challenges this situation by arguing that gender inequality is not just a social issue, but also a structural issue within politics and international system. One important example is the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, also known as the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. This resolution emphasized the importance of women's participation in peace building, conflict prevention, and global decision-making processes. This policy has encouraged many countries and international organizations to increase women's involvement in leadership and peace negotiations. It also raises awareness about the importance of protecting women's rights during conflict and crisis. Therefore, feminism has successfully influenced international institutions to become more inclusive and aware of gender equality issues. So, jump to the last point. Feminism increases women's participation in peace building and conflict resolution. Feminist theory promotes the inclusion of women in peace negotiation because women often experience conflict differently from men. For example, women are commonly affected as civilians, caregivers, refugees, or victims of gender-based violence during wars and conflicts. Because of this experience, women can bring different perspectives and prioritize into peace processes. They often focus on community rebuilding, human rights, education, healthcare, and long-term social recovery. A good example can be seen during the Bosnian War. During the conflict, peace negotiations were mainly led by men, while women's voices were mostly ignored. Issues such as sexual violence, trauma recovery, and rebuilding communities did not receive enough attention. Research by United Nations Women shows that peace agreements involving women are more likely to be successful and long-lasting. This proves that women's participation can improve the quality and sustainability of peace processes. To sum up, feminism has made a major impact on international relations. It has expanded the meaning of security, influenced global policies and institutions, and increased women's participation in peace building. Feminist theory helps create a more inclusive and human-centered approach to global politics, where both men and women have equal importance in shaping international peace and security. Thank you. That's all from me.
Now we move to the conclusion. In conclusion, feminist perspective expose how women are excluded and how war affects them differently. Traditional approach in international relations often focus on power, states and security, while the experiences and roles of women are sometimes overlooked. Feminist perspective help reveal these gaps and show that the impact of conflict is not experienced equally by everyone. Policies like Sweden's 2014 and China's 2022 feminist foreign policy show progress but needs strong support to last. These policies demonstrate efforts to include gender equality and women's perspective in decision-making processes. However, without strong political commitment and continuous support, this initiative may struggle to create long-term impact. Real change means more than representation. It requires challenging systems and power. Simply increasing the number of women in leadership positions is not enough if the existing structures and inequality remain unchanged. Meaningful change requires transforming the system that create exclusion and unequal power relations. Gender analysis helps shift security from states to people, leading to better and more inclusive peace building instead of focusing only on state security. Feminist approach emphasize women's security and prioritize the well-being and experiences of individuals and communities. Finally, feminist international relations highlights blind spots and promotes human security, but it must address Western bias and local realities for lasting impact. Overall, feminist perspective bring important insight and contributing to create a more inclusive and balanced understanding of global issues. That's all for us. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum to FATIN group. I have a question, my question is, why does feminists argue that internal relation is not gender neutral? Thank you.
Thank you, Hisham, for your question. My answer is feminist theories argue that international relation is not gender neutral because traditional IR theories such as realism and liberalism are based on masculine perspective of power, security, and leadership. These theories are often focused on military strength and state survival, while ignoring women experience such as gender-based violence, economic inequality, and impact on war civilians. Feminist scholars like Cynthia Enlu question this by asking, where are the women, to highlight the woman invisibility in global politics.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Anissa Safia and I have a question for your group. So my question is, what is the difference between traditional security and feminist security perspectives?
Thank you, Anissa, for your question. So this is my answer for your question. So traditional international relations view security mainly as protecting the state from military threats and war. Feminist international relations expand this idea through the concept of human security, which focuses on protecting individuals from violence, poverty, displacement, and inequality. For example, during the Rwandan genocide, many women experienced sexual violence and displacement, showing that security is not only about protecting borders but also protecting people's life and well-being. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alicia Christina and I have one question, which is, why is women participation important in peace negotiation and conflict resolution? That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia, for your question. So the answer is feminism theory believe women's participation is important because women experience conflict differently from men and can provide a different perspective during peace negotiation. Women are often affected by displacement, sexual violence, and the responsibility of caring for families during war. Research also shows that peace agreements involving women are more likely to last longer and create more inclusive outcomes. This is why organizations like UN Women strongly support women's involvement in peace building processes.